performing across all of our queues. So reining these in, and seeing where that gets us for patch 2 meta. So I'm really excited about this. So first up is Ashe. So we have reverted the damage reduction from Season 3, so her burst cannon in hand will now go up to 400 damage. Nice and simple. Up next is Barik. Barik is dominating right now as a frontline, but he's hidden about it. He's not killing you. He's just never dying, basically. His self-healing is really the big stat we kind of looked at for him. Is he's on average healing for over 20,000 from his various cards, and he is way out of line. He heals more. He has more self-healing than characters with abilities that self-heal, so Pip. He's healing more than Khan. He's healing more than these characters that really should be healing more than him. And this is kind of contributing to something where he doesn't feel oppressive, but because it's so hard to kill him and lock him down and he's constantly sustaining, in addition to the cauterized nerfs from Season 3, that these are just causing too much problems, so we're reining in some of his cards rather than his base kit. And so double time, the healing per second is going down from 80 scaling to 50, reducing the duration from 4 to 3. Field deploy is reducing the turret healing per turret hit from 30 to 20 scaling, and healing station reduced the healing per second from 35 to 25. So still very good at sustaining himself. He's just not as dominant. Up next is Bomb King. Royal Subjects now has a unique damage fall-off curve. So what was actually happening was the increased explosion radius was also using the same fall-off curve. So if the sticky bomb is, we'll just say 3 units from someone without Royal Subjects, with Royal Subjects, it's going to be doing more damage because it's the same, I don't know how to explain this, but it's the same curve based on the entire distance. It's not at set points, it does less damage. And so we now have a unique one. And so you were essentially able to get more effective DPS for non-direct hits with Sticky Bomb. And so now the damage should be neutralized across. Then we have Furia. Seris is receiving a reduction in the bonus healing from 25 to 15%. Grohk. Grohk is getting a lot of changes. So I encourage you all to playtest him in PTS and give us your feedback because there is a lot of things changing with the Blue Orc himself. So to start off with, Spirit's Domain, the talent, direct heal on your shock, or not shock pulse. I can't even think of his weapon. There's so many changes. His weapon reduced the healing per second from 900 to 500. Totemic Ward has a new effect, so no longer granting the CC immunity. Gain a 3rd charge of healing totem. Yes, I said 3rd charge, and increase the healing totem's effects by 20% healing. So we're going to get into that one. First up for abilities is Healing Totem. So Grohk now has 2 charges of Healing Totem at base, and Totem Healing now stacks. So if you have multiple totems that are doing the same amount of healing, they're actually stacking. You're not only getting a single effect, that was not how it worked previously. Totem healing now stacks. Increased max allowed totem count is now 3. We have reduced healing per second from 420 to 250 each. We have reduced the cooldown from 15 seconds to 10 seconds. And we have increased the effect radius from 20 units to 28. Ghost Walk is also receiving some changes. So we have increased the duration from 1 second to 2 seconds at base. We've increased the movement speed from 20% to 50%. And we have increased the cooldown from 12% to 15%. So stronger effect happens a little bit less often. Tempest, Grohk's ultimate. We have reduced the healing per second from 1,000 to 700, and man, was that actually insane this patch. Grohk's Tempest was not kind. That's a lot of morale boost running around. We've reduced the movement speed bonus from 60% to 50%, and we've increased the max healing count from 2 to 3, and along with the max enemy hit count from 2 to 3 every time it ticks. We have various card changes. I think we've only got the new ones that we're going to cover, but he has a lot of number changes, so make sure to check out patch notes. So first up, though, is Phantom, which is a Ghost Walk card. Previously, it increased the duration of Ghost Walk by 0.3 seconds. There's a new effect where you are healing for 100 scaling during Ghost Walk. Healing Rain, we've renamed this to Spirit's Grace, and allies inside your healing rain now gain 6% increased movement speed for 1 second, and previously that was the heal a max percent of a champion's HP while inside. And then we have Outreach. Previously increased the radius of the healing totem by 25% scaling, and now increases the deploy range of Healing Totem by 15% scaling. And then he has, Grohk has various other card changes. So make sure to try him on PTS. There's a lot of changes. This is really getting him more totem-centric and having a little bit more consistency in his healing. So obviously, he is a healer that creates a deployable, which means it can be hard countered by opponents. And that kind of led to instances of like, Grohk could be really strong against certain team comps or really certain skill levels that players were not very good at destroying the totems. And so this now gives Grohk a little bit more consistency at higher levels, where if players are putting a lot of effort into taking out his totems to reduce his healing, they're wasting a lot of time to do so rather than just having to destroy a single totem, because they're happening every 10 seconds. You can have up to 3 charges with new talent. So we're excited to see the playstyle of Grohk and kind of where he lands, but again, make sure to give us as much feedback as possible from the PTS. And then we have Inara. So Inara, we have reverted an unintended damage nerf from Season 3. So was doing 210 A shot, should have been doing 225. So small damage number nerf that accidentally snuck through, but was not intended, so we have reverted that. Up next, we have Koga. So Koga received a lot of changes in Season 3. Overall, we're happy that he has risen back into the limelight.
From the bottom to the top.
He was at the bottom last season, but he's here. He's playable now. We do really like the weapons changes. We think he's a lot more consistent in being able to take out targets. We looked at his statistics, both the win rate and kind of how he was doing overall. He's the top kills in the game at higher elos, and he's like top 3 in other elos. And we like that he is successful at killing as a flank. We actually see all flanks at the top, but unfortunately, when it comes to how often he's dying, is not so much. So we like that he's killing a lot, but we do want to make him a little bit less safe in kind of how he plays right now. So that's what these changes are specifically targeted at.
For sure, like making sure you can go in, dive, fulfill that role, kind of take a pull back, move back in.
Yeah, so
Oh, I was just going to say, this is something, too, that the AOC brought up to us, the 2019 AOC, in our last meeting.
Oh, yeah.
One of the subjects they wanted to bring up, I remember Jay Flair having it as a call-out and everything, was Koga just like...
And everyone kind of agreed, too. They were all saying that the pistols feel great, but he just never dies.
Yeah.
So, you know, the voices have been heard, the community's feedback has been heard, and... You know, the good boy Koga probably still going to be in a good place after this, right?
Yeah, so outside of Adrenaline Junkie getting a little bit hit, so you have to deal a little bit more damage before you can actually get your Adrenaline back. He has a couple card changes, so Trigger Happy, we've reduced the healing scaling from 10% to 5%. The Ammo Regeneration card, Surprise, we've reduced that from 6 scaling to 5. And then Tenacious, which is the healing on dash, has gone from 60 scaling to 40. And then Memento, we've reduced the ammo increase from 10 to 5 scaling.
Yeah, and pulling back a lot of that ammo too is going to help with that more consistency where you're doing the push and pull back and forth with Koga as well. That's the common complaint we always saw watching streams, see on Twitter, stuff like that, that ammo-centric stuff. So pulling that back in line should make him feel a lot better.
Yep. A couple quick ones here. So Maeve, the Predation card that we introduced now will only work on players, so no longer shields and deployables. Makoa Shell Shield is now getting a health increase to 4,000, so I believe it's the Carapace card will now effectively work in double proc. And then Ancient Rage is getting its the health gain during the ultimate ability from 5,000 to 4,000, so you'll still be a big, massive turtle, just not as massive.
That's the dream, right?
Right. Quick one on Bamba. So similar to Ash, we are reverting his gourd nerf we did from Season 3, so now going to 60 per tick from 45.
Okay.
Cool. Absolutely, kind of pulling that all together too. And speaking of big boys and frontliners.
Yes.
Yeah.
Moving on to
a
the big boy,
The
right?
big boy.
The biggest of boys. The biggest boy in our game.
hottest
Exactly.
boy.
So Raum's been out for a while. We have done some very specific targeted nerfs here. So he kind of lives on this precarious balance spot where he is a frontline with no shield, and so his gameplay loop centers around I never stop shooting, and as I never stop shooting, I'm generating my defensive mechanic for hitting other players, which is soul armor. So we have to be very careful with how sustainy he works. He kind of right now exists in a good spot where he's very effective at not dying as a frontline, which is really kind of what we want him to do. And he's constantly putting out damage pressure, but you know, if you catch him overextended, you can still kill him. But when it comes to an outlier, we definitely saw Enforcer as an outlier. Just in win rates according to other talents, whereas base we think he's good. So we have reduced the damage reduction from 75% to 50% on this talent specifically. And then his ability Juggernaut, we again, like that he's super sustaining, but we just want to bring down his kill potential a little bit. And so you can feel a little bit safer when around him, but he's still going to be that really hard to take down front line. And so the damage has been reduced from 700 to 600, excuse me, and we have reduced the distance traveled from 260 to 245.
Yeah.
So if you want to go far away, you have to, invest into the cards that actually extend that duration.
Yeah.
And would you say that one of the big things behind this, like, I remember also to bring back the last AOC meeting,
Yes.
even Jay was saying how Raum seems to actually be a character that the lower, lower elo, like they have a tough time sometimes with Raum, but at the high level, he's like good. Like he's just like, he's not like overpowered to like the higher level elo and stuff. So that I just to reiterate on what you said, like you don't want to like touch him too hard because you want him to stay in that like good spot.
Yeah, he lives on he lives in a fine line. So you'll almost never be able to make a character that exists the exact same win rate or style or play style between a low skill game and a high skill game, and then it's even a bigger leap from, I'll be realistic here, like Diamonds Masters games are completely different than coordinated scrims and pro play. They exist in the same universe, but they are vastly different, and that's the same for any game. Is that pro play is kind of lives in its own bubble, and so we always make sure when it comes to balancing to look at every skill level, how characters are performing, different cues, right? We do look at Onslaught and Team Deathmatch just to at least have an understanding of how these characters are performing, and we look at console versus PC. And it is, again, you are never seeing a character exist at the same strength level across all of those. They're always going to be different, and so we try and find the best for the whole Paladins and how that exists.
Yeah, so, balancing is very much a living ecosystem, right? Yes. It's never something that is, we have now done it. It is now balanced.
It is now balanced. And it's also, metas change as well. I know we're getting in a little bit design and balance theory here, but we've definitely seen characters that people perceive as weak or strong, that statistically they're not backed up by that, and so we're always looking at them, right? It is good that we have both the public feedback and our internal data, and then kind of identify where we think things are strong at or why people think that. And we've seen over months, like these characters that people thought were weak become strong and in the meta, or the reverse of that, where they're super strong, and then all of a sudden these characters are never picked by anyone, and it's just kind of how meta develops over long periods of time. And because we balance every 2 months, especially with season 3, no one's going to figure out this meta until mid-season probably.
It's a time-consuming thing. Yes. And I mean, speaking of that, kind of moving on to the next one on the list here, we have Seris up next on the support side of things.
So we have reduced the cooldown from 2 seconds to 1.5. So this is for us a big feeling, the feeling of the healing. And because most players were running the level 5 card before, which got your cooldown down to 1.5 seconds. And so now healing at 2 seconds, it felt a little bit off to more experienced Seris players. So we're going to do this, and we're going to see where she's at after this.
Right.
She's definitely a character that exists that is super popular in lower account level, not skill level. New players really like Seris. One of the reasons we made her free. We think she's a great bridge character for getting you into the game where she's not doing too much. It's super easy to learn and pick up, and she's effective. Right? Maybe if you're, maybe she can't be esports viable or high elo viable, but right now she works for a lot of players, and so we want to be very careful when we make any changes to Seris specifically. And make sure that she still works as a character that players new to Paladins can get in and enjoy, and we're not giving Seris too many wild things for the sake of making her meta viable at a high level.
Absolutely. That way she's that nice, again, bridge character between that new player experience and the current experience.
Yeah, and we're really getting down the list now. We're almost done with the balance section.
Yeah, absolutely.
So thank you for sticking with us here.
It's always a journey, right? Every time we go through balance, it is a journey.
Nothing can top the last update.
No, last one was. Sorry.
But we are going to go in. We're almost done with the S's here. But before we are, we're going to go into Sha Lin, who had a lot of changes in Season 3.
Yeah, I think we could speed run some of these for the most part, for the remainder. So first up is Sha Lin. Sha Lin obviously got fundamentally changed. People seem to like him, but when reevaluating Sha Lin, kind of his ease of use, his skill ceiling or floor was pretty high. Mostly when it comes to the arrows and being a little bit more consistent. So this is it's quality of life, but it is balance focused too. So we've increased the minimum projectile speed when drawing a bow from 120 to 300. So now it starts at 300 and we'll scale it to something. And then we've reduced the base gravity scaling on arrows from 3 to 0.8. These numbers probably mean nothing to you guys. And then we have removed the gravity scaling from fully drawn arrows. So just quick TLDR. You know when you kind of like tap your arrow and it just dinks, dinks, like 2 feet in front of you? Arrows are going to be a lot more consistent now. So when you've charged it halfway, it's not going fully straight, but it's going pretty close. So you can get a lot more non-fully drawn arrow damage shots, which is going to help you in those tight 1v1 fights.
Right.
So be very wary of that. So again, give feedback. We want to figure out if this is the right change for Sha Lin. So
For sure.
give feedback on PTS.
Yeah, making them feel a little more consistent, and let us know as we go into PTS, of course.
Yes. Then we have Skye, so talent, smoke, and dagger. So we've removed the 1 second duration increase. So you are healing for 3 seconds instead of 4 now with that. And then we have reduced the allied healing per second from 200 to 150. And then she also has a card change. Dissipate, we have reduced the duration from 3 seconds to 2 seconds. That's the movement speed bonus after smoke screen. So this is very targeted. We like where Skye has landed in terms of having a unique play style that we really haven't seen. We've functionally changed a flank into being able to be like this hybrid support flank character. So we like the identity that we brought to her. We felt it was fun and a different type of thing that we've done in Paladins in the past. And we do want to keep that. But the healing and damage was a little bit too much. We're just reining in the healing slightly. We still think she'll be effective as a off support. Probably can't solo heal a team anymore though.
Yeah, I loved all the videos that came in after season 3 changes with her. It was like, healing Skye? Legit? And it was like,
it's there.
She's there.
It was like a little conspiracy theory, like, does this work? Yeah, it was fantastic.
Then we have Terminus. So these are just some card reductions. Blood and Stone, which is the power siphon gain on Shatterfall, going from 10 scaling to 6 scaling. And Abomination, which is Calamity Blast hitting, gaining power siphon charge, went from 3 scaling to 2. So Terminus, we've seen good things about him. We've seen him more consistent, across all levels of play.
Yeah.
All these words blend together. But he basically had infinite shield in his current card state, so we've kind of reined them in. So you have
like an infinite siphon, right?
more opportunities. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I remember also, too, to bring up the AOC meeting, like, I remember that was like a community concern that was brought up. And, a lot of people, I think, like, are always like, well, what goes on in these and stuff. And immediately when that happened, like, Kevin was like, oh, I absolutely, like, I agree. Like, I think he's in a good spot, but yeah, the infinite siphons, like,
the siphon was pretty insane. All it took was me watching one of Zarini's streams, and I was like, yeah, we need to talk about this.
Hey, we'll talk about it.
When I play that role, I am a Terminus person all the way when I'm playing. But,
Absolutely.
He doesn't need to be completely overpowered, right?
No, he's fine.
He can fit. He can fit.
Terminus is a good boy.
Up next is Tiberius. So we're going to power through these last 4 real quick. So abilities, Blade Dance. We've reduced the lockout after the last ability charge is used. So you finish your ult and you're kind of like, I did it. Okay, here's my glaives back. And now it's going to be like, I did it. Here's my glaives back. So it'll be a lot smoother transition. You won't feel locked out. It was also his most vulnerable spot. So, you have, I believe it went from 0.85 to 0.5 post lockout. So you have about 350 milliseconds more of reaction time in your most vulnerable state. And then he's got some cards reduced as well. Bragging Rights going from 25 to 15 scaling, and then Hone Senses, which is the ultimate charge, while channeling from 0.8 to 0.6. So just reining in a couple of his cards. Then we have Torvald. Daddy Torvald's back and being a monster. And ranked once again, so we're going to be reducing the base protection, the shield on protection from 1,000 to 500. So we've changed to be like the shields last longer, up to 4 seconds now from 2 a couple years ago. And it's a cooldown of 6 seconds. So 500 shielding is a lot for how long it lasts. So we're going to see kind of this is where we want Torvald to exist. And those who want to go the extra shielding can invest into the talent that does so. Sure. Then we have Ying, so just bringing in Ying a little bit in comparison to some of the other supports. She's been very strong, is just 420 healing per illusion to 400 per hit. And then finally we have Zhin. Similar to Koga, flanks have been kind of dominating, or at least more consistent. We're super happy that they are in the meta, that they are being played more. But Zhin was a little bit too strong with the changes, so we've actually looked at his talents specifically for this. So we have removed the damage immunity on Guillotine, so it's not a guaranteed, basically 100% kill on a fairly easy to hit ability, so you have to use this a little bit more intelligently now. It is still very strong anti-tank or anti-frontline or high health characters, so it's still good. And then Smolder, we've reduced the healing per second from 25% to 15%.
Good stuff.
And that's it
Yeah.
for balance.
That wraps it up. Nice
Yeah,
stuff.
so many really good changes I think coming, and all that feedback that everyone in the community has given us so far, very, very important, and I think has helped reshape like going from season 3 and the drastic changes to just refining out anything that may have been, you know, not seen as a threat that maybe was. And